Greetings, ladies and gentlemen. Nico Nostalgia here, and welcome to my review of Resident Evil 2002. My plan is to go through and review each one of these movies. And I don't even know if I can really call this a review, because it's mostly just going to be a rant, because I did not like these films. And I think there are some redeeming qualities in them, but for the most part, I think that they completely dropped the ball. And this is going to be my way of just kind of venting that off. People have asked me, hey, what are your thoughts on the films? You talk about Resident Evil here all the time. What do you think of the live action films? Well, I can tell you right now, they did not please me. The first film, actually the first two films, I do have some nostalgia for, because I saw those in the theater with my cousin, who sadly is no longer with us. He passed away in his 20s from cancer. So I do have that nostalgia thing going on, and I have to say the first two films, I loved the music. Paul Anderson, I think he has some pretty good taste in music. I love metal. The first film used all Roadrunner artists, and I love Roadrunner. I'm a huge fan of Typo Negative, who was not in that film. I don't know why they did not use Typo Negative. It would have been perfect for Resident Evil. I've said that years before the movie came out. Fucking Typo Negative should be like the entire soundtrack of Resident Evil. So even that is bittersweet for me. They used the whole Roadrunner thing, and they went with all the Roadrunner artists, but they didn't use my favorite Roadrunner artist of all time. They did use Fear Factory, which is another one of my favorite bands, and they did have a scene that took place in the graveyard that very much reminded me of one of Typo Negative's albums, Bloody Kisses. If you take a look at the back of that and the artwork and the inside of that graveyard scene when he's talking to that guy's sister about the company's secrets, very much channeling that. I don't know if Paul picked up on the artwork from that. I don't know, but it seems like he definitely did. However, there is one glaring problem, and I think this is really what set the whole Resident Evil movies off onto the wrong path to begin with. The very first Resident Evil film was supposed to be kind of like a play on Alice in Wonderland. If you didn't know that, now you do, and you probably wish you didn't, because when I heard that, I was like, you've got to be fucking kidding me. So if you take a look at Alice, obviously you've got Alice, and then you've got them going down in the hive, which is supposed to be like the rabbit hole, and you've got the Red Queen, and that Kaplan guy that was always pressed for time and trying to rush everybody. He was supposed to be like the White Rabbit. How they thought that would have been any good to use in a Resident Evil movie, I don't know, but evidently they started to go in that direction, and then they kind of stopped halfway through or something like that, and they started to just veer away from it. So it's still there, but it's not quite there as much as it would have been there if they were going to follow through with it. And it's just it comes across as like half-hearted. It's very confusing that they would go with that. When I went to go see Resident Evil, what I wanted to see is exactly what the game was. Now, Paul came out and said, well, nobody wants to see the game because they already played it and they already know what happens. No, Paul, you're fucking wrong, buddy. People wanted to see the game on the silver screen. You could have made some plot twists or whatever and twisted things around as long as you didn't break the lore too much. But for the most part, people wanted the mansion. They wanted Jill and Chris. They wanted Wesker. They wanted Barry. And they wanted to see, I can tell you right now, personally, I wanted to see more of the mansion. The mansion was an afterthought in this film, folks, okay? If you look at the setting of the mansion, it doesn't look anything like the Spencer mansion at all, from the outside or inside, at all. They could have built a set, but I don't know if they wanted to save money. They went to some real mansion, I think was like a part of the Third Reich or some shit they said. Who fucking cares? But they didn't spend any time there. They pretty much went straight down into the hive. And that's where the majority of the film takes place. Now, I will say that I like the claustrophobic feel that they gave the film. That very much channels Resident Evil, and I think that's pretty much one of the only things that they got right besides the music. But then again, when we first meet the zombies and they start shooting at the zombies, they start playing this very crazy kind of like thrash metal. And I think Marilyn Manson had something to do with the soundtrack. As a matter of fact, I know that he did. The main title, which I thought was actually pretty good. I like the main title that they use when the movie opens up, but that whole action sequence, I just didn't really care for that. It seemed to me like the creepy Resident Evil atmospheric music that we remember, they should have had more of that going on, but what can you do? These are things that just don't translate very well to the silver screen. But nevertheless, the effects in this movie I think are awful. I think that the CG is awful, even for the time. If you take a look at that one zombie's face that's like half busted up, was awful. The guy that was kind of walking on a broken leg, I think he was actually an amputee or something like that, so he looked really cool. I liked that effect. I thought that was very nice. The Cerberus, or the zombie dogs. In other words, they looked nice as well, but other than that, the effects just, they did not impress me. The fact that we had this crazy Red Queen down in there controlling the hive and she was out to kill everybody, it just seemed like that was like the main villain of the film, and that should not have been the main focus. This film to me is a cautionary tale that you cannot break away from the lore too much. You can't break away from the source material. You can't just give people a completely different thing. And I've actually recently had people tell me, hey, if you look at it as a different universe, it's not that bad. Well, I shouldn't have to look at it as like a different universe and something different. This is a Resident Evil movie. It should reflect Resident Evil. And we've seen in the sequels that they started to bring in characters that people wanted to see. We started to see Jill and Claire and shit like that. But the way that they used them, I feel like they were so misused, and the focus was still on Alice. There are a lot of people who look at Alice and are like, really, Paul? Why do you keep trying to push your wife on everybody? We don't want to fucking see Alice anymore. We never wanted to see Alice to begin with, and I concur. I don't think anybody wanted to see that, and I think that's how they got into the situation they're in. Now, you do have fans of this film. For the life of me, I can't understand why, but some people just, they celebrate mediocrity. I don't know. And I have to be honest, I tried to convince myself that I liked the movie. When I first saw it, I was like, oh, it was awesome. It was Resident Evil. Yeah, it was awesome. Then I got the DVD and I watched it. I'm like, it's Resident Evil. It's awesome. Come on, you know. And I watched it a couple more times and I started to just see it. It's just really not a very good Resident Evil movie. Was it a decent horror movie? I don't know, maybe. I think maybe it's just a decent, as just looking at it as a horror movie on its own. I don't think it's terrible. I've certainly seen worse horror movies, but as Resident Evil, I expect more. I expect to see the characters that I care about and the story that I care about. And I love the way he was basically just like, well, you can just go play the games. That's what you want to see. That is very good advice, Paul. That's very good advice. I can just go play the games. So then explain to me why I should give a shit about your movie if I can just go play the games, if that's what I want. If I want Resident Evil, guys, I can go play the games. Oh, okay. So then why are we doing this? Why does this even fucking exist? Explain it to me. I don't get it. They kind of let him get his own personal playground to do whatever he wanted with. It's like Capcom was like, yeah, that's cool. Alice in Wonderland, it's fine, whatever. And a lot of people probably already know this, but George Romero wrote the original script. I have not read that script, but I heard it was way better than what Paul Anderson came up with. I also heard that Capcom declined his script because it was too similar to like Night of the Living Dead. This is bad because why? Why is this bad? I don't really understand it. For those of you who might have been more into this than me and you actually read the script, can you tell me if the original characters are there at least? I would think that Romero would at least have respect for the source material, or was it just like a farmhouse thing all over again? I think Romero probably would have been in a better position to handle this just because he's a veteran of zombies. And really, the first Resident Evil is a zombie story. And yes, there's BOWs there, but the zombies were really, they felt like the main focus to me. They still feel like the main focus to me in that game. And they still do in Resident Evil 2, I think to a lesser extent. I think at that point it started becoming more about the BOWs. But zombies, Romero knows his zombies. Just don't take a look at his later films. Sorry, George. I'm sorry, I love you, man. But yeah, we're not going to talk about Diary of the Dead and the other one, which I forgot the name of because it was so awful. So what redeeming qualities does this film possess? Well, as I stated, I think that the soundtrack is pretty damn good. The claustrophobic feelings are pretty good. And Michelle Rodriguez, I really feel like she held the film up quite a bit. I thought her acting was pretty decent, for as decent as it can be in a horror movie. I like the fact that she was bit, and then you can slowly start to see her character getting worse. She just looks more and more fucked up. And then when you think she's just about to turn, she doesn't. She's still alive. And then, oh, shit, she turned. I love Michelle Rodriguez anyways. I always have. And it's just one of those things. If she would have been the main character, I would have liked it more, to be honest with you. But her character progression, I like that a lot. And just all in all, I think that her performance was pretty strong. I have to say, a lot of these films piss me off when someone gets infected and they turn within a matter of hours, or if you're looking at like 28 days later, they turn instantaneously and they get the rage and they just start flipping out. That kind of thing was always just kind of, for me, it was so annoying. Even the Dawn remake, which I do love that movie, don't get me wrong. Even the Dawn remake just kind of makes me go, because the husband turns so fast. So it's like instantaneous in that film. And I have to say, they were going for more of a brutal approach with that movie, and it did work. But I like to see it take time. I'm a classic Romero fan. When someone gets bit, it should take several hours to a couple of days before they turn. So all in all, some redeeming qualities here. A decent horror movie if you just happen to be a horror movie fan and don't know anything about Resident Evil. I think maybe there's an enjoyable experience here for you. But if I had to just really nail it down, no, this could have been so much better. This is not what I wanted from a Resident Evil movie, and it's not what I had in mind when they mentioned the Resident Evil movie competition back when Resident Evil 2, I think it was the demo, when Resident Evil 2 demo came out, there was a way to get an appearance in the movie, I believe, and I think there was someone that actually won that got a passing role as a zombie. So I guess you could say they honored at least that much. Right now, I want to kick it over to you guys. What did you think of the first Resident Evil film? Let me know. If you guys enjoyed this video, please remember to rate it thumbs up. If you're new here, I ask that you please subscribe. I thank you all for watching, and I look forward to seeing you all in my next video.